Introducing a member of the IUPUI Board of Advisors, Mary Ellen Bishop. Mary Ellen Bishop is a partner of Cohen, Gerlich, and Glazier in Indianapolis. She received a bachelor's degree in business from Indiana University, Bloomington, and a JD from the IU McKinney School of Law, Indianapolis. She is a fellow in the Indiana State Bar, Foundation, a distinguished fellow in the Indianapolis Bar Foundation, and has played an active role in a variety of professional organizations. Earning national citations for her work, she has been a tireless volunteer on behalf of Indiana University, serving as chair of the IU Alumni Association in 2008, as co-chair of the Planned Giving Committee for the IU School of Medicine, and as a member of the IU Athletics Committee, the School of Law Indianapolis Board of Visitors, and the steering committee of the Colloquium for Women of IU. Everyone, please welcome Mary Ellen Bishop.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Caroline. I appreciate your introduction. On behalf of the IUPUI Board of Advisors, I'm pleased to welcome you today and to thank the members of the IUPUI Chancellor Circle for hosting today's luncheon event. I want to invite some very special guests here today to please stand and be recognized. First, I want to recognize two fellow members of the Indiana University Board of Trustees, Chairman Tom Riley and Board Member Dr. Philip Eskew. Next, I want to ask all members of the IUPUI Board of Advisors to please stand and be recognized. And now I'd like to ask all the IUPUI Chancellor Circle members to please stand and be recognized. Thanks to all of you. We really appreciate your generous support of this vibrant campus. Today we have the opportunity to hear from Charles Bantz, the fourth Chancellor of IUPUI, who is now in his 11th year leading this dynamic institution. During his tenure as Chancellor, Charles has been deeply engaged in elevating IUPUI's reputation as an economic engine for Central Indiana, with a focus on areas of opportunity that are very important to our state. Chancellor Bantz continues to be an advocate for educational opportunity from cradle to career through his efforts as convener of the Talent Alliance. He is active nationally in the promotion of urban universities as anchor institutions in their communities and in articulating IUPUI's tradition of translating research into practice and how it works to improve lives. Please give a warm welcome to IUPUI Chancellor Charles Bantz.
Thank you very much, Mary Ellen and the other trustees, for the work you've done to build Indiana University and support this campus. I want to recognize a few other people who are here, and particularly the elected officials. I believe we have some legislators, city county council members that I would ask to stand and be recognized. Thank you for your service to this community. I also want to recognize, it's so appropriate today, all of you who came through the center of the campus center, you may have noticed there's an international fair on. And we're very pleased today that we have representatives from Denmark, Mexico, Italy, France, and Switzerland. They're consuls and honorary consuls from those countries, as well as a previous consul from Mexico is here as well. Could I ask us, those of you here, to stand and let's recognize you. I also want to thank our wonderful student for her remarks and for coming and choosing this campus as a place to build such an interesting career for the next phase of your life. And thank you very much for being here today. As Trustee Bishop said, this is my 11th year on the campus, and there are days that I find that truly astounding. Almost as astounding as that I overlooked the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of the state of Indiana and his wife Jan as I'm looking over there. Please stand up. Somehow I thought of you as an elected official, but I want to make sure. Thank you very much, and an alum, by the way, of the McKinney School. But in these years, it is very easy to focus on the fact that so much has happened in this last decade, and I'm going to talk about that. But I also want to remind us that in 1969, we were a young campus with roughly 13,000 students on this campus at the moment of the creation of the campus, not of the creation of some of our schools. Those schools existed in a few cases back to the beginning of the 20th century, and in a couple of cases you can even claim roots into the 19th century. As I look at my colleague from PE, there is no question that they have roots into the 19th century, and there are some historic roots of the law school as well into that. But they did not come together till '69. Which some of us remember, and so we know that isn't that long ago, all right? But we were a pretty small place, not tiny, in that time, and in that time we have gone from 13,000 to 30,000 students in these last 45 years. We had a hard time finding out what the budget was in 1969, and I want to thank the library archivist for finding a typed copy of Chancellor Maynard Hines' budget for 1969, which added up to $53 million, including, and this is the amusing part, $17 million to operate IU Hospital. Right. Our budget as a campus today, with no hospitals included, is $1.3 billion. And as I'm going to talk about, some of that is money that we bring in for research, a significant amount, but it is also tells you about the scale of the operation of which we're a part of. Probably the biggest surprise in going back to this was that we discovered there were 728 beds on campus. I thought there were about 300 because Ball Residence has been there since my parents were young, all right, the 20s. And it's always been there, and so I thought that was the 300 beds on campus. But no, we had students living in what was the old Union, the wing to the right side before it was knocked down for Eskenazi. And as well, there was another building. And so there were 720 on the campus, a number which dived to 300 in the 80s. And only this year have we climbed back to 1,600 beds on campus. And that is because we converted University Conference Center Hotel into University Tower. And that tower, 560 beds, 100% full, plus 251 students are across the river in Park Place. We have a campus with a vibrant residential life, and I want to thank my colleagues for making that happen. So we've seen these changes. That's just sort of at the highest scale, but I thought the best way to symbolize that change is to show the photo in 1969 of those lovely two buildings in downtown Indianapolis that you see on the left, and then a photo of this building you're in here today. And I think that really does capture the range of growth that has occurred in these 45 years. And it sets the context for what I want to talk about, because what I'm going to talk about is how we've been doing over the last 10 years on goals that we've set for ourselves that are really demanding, doubling things. And then I'm going to talk about how we're planning for the next 5 to 10 years in a strategic planning process that we've completed in the last year and a half. So let me start with that. and do it first by the metaphor I've refined. Some of you have heard me before say that this was about changing plane engines while flying, and I've decided it's way more than the engines changed. We changed the vehicle while flying. So one could argue that in 1969 we had a pretty good P-51 Mustang, because if you don't know planes, this was a really good fighter plane. And so I can imagine it making it to the 60s. But the truth is it wasn't going to carry us through the 60s, 70s, 80s. And so we switched to an F-4 Phantom fighter, and we've moved ahead. But the trick about this is we switched while we were flying. One of the things about a university that people often don't quite grasp is this is a place that never started cold. It's not like one day the legislature woke up and said, let's find a field and build IUPUI from scratch in 3 years and open the doors and you start. We were created piece at a time when resources were available, when a need arose, and so we just keep adding things. And that spirit of educating, doing research, being involved in the community, simultaneously while you're growing, is what we are. And that's why this metaphor of changing while flying, I think, defines us, and frankly defines the spirit of entrepreneurialism that is critical to this campus. Some of you have seen the mission statement. I'm not expecting you to read this. I only want to make a couple points. You cannot take IUPUI out of this mission statement, plug in any other campus in America and have it make sense. You can't do that. You can't plug in IPFW, which is the only other place that would fit the first sentence, a partnership of Indiana and Purdue, because it is not urban research and academic health science campus. They do not claim a responsibility for their community in the same way, at the same scale we do. And you cannot put any other campus in there and have it make sense. It is a unique mission statement, and it puts an obligation on this campus to be a partner with our community in the city, the state, and beyond. And that partnership, I think, is the defining characteristic of why we are successful, but it also says how fast we have to run, because it takes responsibility beyond the borders of our campus. Our strategy for the last decade has been to align with the economic clusters of Indiana and the city of Indianapolis very overtly. So the first three of these clusters, health and life science, advanced manufacturing, and information technology, are three statewide clusters that are key to this state. I don't include agriculture. It's not a strength of ours, even though it is of our state. And I didn't include logistics because, frankly, we do not have as deep a strength as we need to claim that we are going to drive that cluster. We have some really good people in that area, but we don't have a depth. The bottom two, which are arts, culture, and tourism, and nonprofit management and philanthropy, are Indianapolis clusters. Conscious choices this city has made to build their economic clusters. These are not the only things we do. For example, we have an interest in motorsports, and we created a program to feed that. But these are core to what we've invested in for the last decade and what we've tried to grow. Degree programs, where we've looked to get facilities, and so forth. As I've mentioned, and if you've been around my speeches before, you can't get away without seeing the doubling goal charts. One of those things that I set out in my first remarks to this campus in December of 2003 was the challenge to double the number of baccalaureate degrees we granted, double the research funding we got, double our commitment to civic engagement in terms of service learning, and double our commitment to diversity. We've charted this ever since. I love this chart. It's going up and to the right at a very nice clip. We graduated last year 1,600 more bachelor's degrees than we did in the year 2002. 1,600 more people. Now, what I also like to do is I like to put students' faces on that. And so Isabel Rodriguez on the far left was a former Marine who came to this campus after having gone to Ivy Tech. She too was a NINA scholar and completed a bachelor's degree in 2007. Some of you have been fortunate to meet Will Hartzell Baird, who was a computer science graduate, went to law school here. He has a sister who's a lawyer as well, who came from this campus, and is a great illustration of the graduates in the period that we've got. I hope many of you know Cora Griffin. She was a student trustee to Indiana University Board of Trustees, appointed by Governor Daniels, graduate from SPIA, Public Environmental Affairs and Public Management, and is now getting a master's degree in nonprofit management and a JD in the McKinney School of Law. Graduated undergraduate in 2011. Just 3 of the thousands of graduates this campus produce. And the reason I emphasize always this is Indiana is undereducated. We rank in the bottom 10 states and have. Indianapolis is better than the average in the state, but we're the population center, and IUPUI has more Hoosier students than any other campus. It's our job to finish students. It's key to what we do, and this chart is going to be with this campus long after I leave, I believe, because it is essential for us to keep focused on college completion. The second I talked about was research funding, doubling research funding, which is a great measure of certain kinds of scholarship, not all kinds, but it is of research that is funded competitively. We went and increased 50% between 2002 and 2013. I have to point out that when the stimulus money was there, we were 99% up, and then we slipped down, if you see those colleagues. I also remind you and put under this, the faculty who lift this chart up are people who submit grants and get support for their work. And so Michelle Salyer is a psychology faculty member who focuses on severe mental illness, has been funded, and that is part of her work. David Marrero, who recently was honored as a translational scholar, is a worldwide expert in diabetes, and by the way, a fabulous speaker about diabetes if you're looking for a speaker. Been funded to do that work. I hope many of you know David Wilkes, who's there in the blue background. David is a Executive Associate Dean for Research in the School of Medicine, a pulmonologist who also does work on transplant rejection, lung transplant rejection, a brilliant scholar, a terrific individual, and very important to the School of Medicine's research program. And then 2 of our colleagues, Arthur Farnsley and Peter Thusen, who are in the Institute for American Religion, Center for Religion and American Life, and this is a funded project on the study of the Bible in America that the Lilly Endowment has supported. And these are 2 great scholars in the humanities along with their colleague Phil Goff, who are working on this project, which, by the way, is one of our great academic strengths, is in religion in American life, which a lot of people don't know about the campus. But you can see the work that these illustrate, and some of you in this room do engage in to make that happen. Civic engagement, as I said, we measure by service learning, and I like this because it's quantitative, it's on their transcripts, we know they were registered in them, and it's 4 credit service learning. This is not spending an afternoon cleaning up the campus. This is a course that people engaged in that is around their academic mission and involves them in the community. And the example here is a partnership with IPS around health and wellness that I assume is my colleagues from PE and tourism management, who have been very active also on the east side with a great deal of service learning. And this, as you know, is a major issue in America, is to get young people involved in activities. And so this is a terrific example. That chart is fabulous. This is the chart if all my charts were up over 4.5 times, I'd be happy, happy, happy. This one is from 2,000 students, 4 credit, up to almost 9,000 last year. Think of that. There are only 30,000 students on campus. They're only 30,000. So we're well over a quarter of our students in a single year were doing service learning for credit. Our commitment to diversity is to substantially be more successful with our diverse populations, and I'm proud to say that we are in a variety of measures. The one I put up here is degrees granted to U.S. minorities. They're now the blue lines because the census changed the definition. You're allowed now to have one or more races as a choice, and those blue lines show that. But the curve is moving up in the way we want it. The numbers of graduates has gone up in the way we want it. We also have seen that this last fall, our entering class was the most diverse ever. 26% of our entering freshmen were from minority groups. What an amazing change across the time. Our transfer students, we've developed a whole series of programs trying to draw transfer students in because Ivy Tech has a significant number of African American students, and now 18% of our students are transfers from Ivy Tech, and that's a very conscious strategy that will bring more diversity to this campus. And we have to keep working at this because it is always about each and every student and helping them be successful. I can't talk about how we've done without mentioning the close of the Impact campaign. This is the second campaign we've run since I've been here. Jerry Bracklow started the last campaign, and I was privileged to complete it. This campaign we finished last year. We celebrated in the fall, and if you can read that number, I'm going to tell it to you anyway. $1,394,000,000 from our donors, from community foundations, from foundations in this country, and it fundamentally transformed this campus. Thank you. I'm going to talk about the Fairbanks School of Public Health. I hope you know about the Lilly Family School of Philanthropy, and I've mentioned the McKinney School of Law. All three of those represent support that we've received from donors over this period and in this campaign. The Glick Eye Institute was gifted by Marilyn Glick and Eugene Glick to fulfill Marilyn's passion to prevent and cure blindness. We saw the Simon Cancer Center to both build a facility and support research to fight what is, of course, one of our most intractable diseases that we've got. I can go through dozens of chairs, RISE scholarships to support students who are engaged in research or international or service experiential learning. Those scholarships supporting dozens of students on our campus. Nearly 100,000 donors, which may be the truly most amazing thing. 99,577 donors to that campaign, including over 5,000 faculty, staff, and retirees from the campus. That kind of commitment has made a difference because it has given us the margin that has allowed us to innovate and to support students and faculty to do their work on these campuses. And given our MC, I can't help but say, the Nina Mason Pulliam Trust has, through this whole time, supported that program for the Nina Scholars, which has demonstrated that with support, we can get some of the most at-risk students in America to complete college degrees. It's been an amazing example of what philanthropy has been able to do in partnership with the campus. But I like to say we're never done, which is why I like my job, and most people on campuses do. We got to change to a better vehicle, and in fact, I happen to think we've already made a switch to this from the F4 because we couldn't have finished the campaign as we did without being, I think, a spaceship these days. We're now calling ourselves occasionally IUPUI or Spaceship IUPUI. And it is part of taking what we've been doing and we believe to be core, taking it further, faster, and more successfully. That is, we're raising the bar for ourselves. And so what we've done over the last 18 months is have a strategic planning process Dr. Nasser Paydar, the Executive Vice Chancellor, has been in charge of this. Wave, Nasser. And Nasser has brought together hundreds of people, faculty, staff, students, to provide input, to be on committees. We have developed this process. We are now ready to implement that process. And I'm going to talk about the priorities in this. I'm going to talk about the initiatives, and I'm going to do it at warp speed, forgive me. But the plan I want to place in a context. And the context is meeting the needs of this state, this city, and beyond. Because notice the subtitle of this plan is a commitment to Indiana and beyond. Because we know the work on a campus is important when it's based in an urban setting in the community we're in, but we also know we're studying problems that are here that have worldwide implications. David Moreno's work on diabetes is from here, from patients here, and his success could change the world in the way in which it's handled. That's the level of importance of starting here, translating that research into practice, and taking it. We do see on our campus always the need of Indiana to help prepare the workforce, or I would say sometimes the citizens of our state for the future. And I happen to be a person who believes that that means their undergraduate education has to involve liberal education, general education, the breadth of skills of communication, of writing, of analysis, of working in groups, working with people who are different, having quantitative skills, having those together with an understanding of the historical context, and also having a career focus. This campus is very rich in career opportunity majors. Not everybody will major in engineering. Some of us majored in things like English. And that is a good combination of a campus to have, but we do need to provide opportunities for our students to combine the liberal education as well as career, and they need to complete their degrees. Whether it's a bachelor's, a master's, a PhD, an MD, a JD, any person capable of completing, we want them to finish. And that's a really high threshold. Because some of us are so old, we grew up in contexts where education actually thought it was a filter. Some of you may have gone to a class when you were 18 and somebody said, "Look to your left, look to your right. One of you won't be here in this fall next year." Now that was really stupid if every one of you were qualified to get into. Now, I happened to go to school on a campus with really good engineering. And they were saying this to my colleagues. I wasn't in engineering. Nobody got into IT at Minnesota who was an essentially pretty much a perfect high school student. This was dumb to drive them out. Or as it happened at another university, they ended up leaving engineering and going to finance, getting straight A's and getting jobs that made them lots of money. We don't do that here. I believe, Kathy, as I look at the person who we asked to be responsible for undergraduate education, Kathy Johnson. But we have to commit to complete, and that's a complicated commitment, as I'll say in a minute. We do play a role in fueling the state's economy. From the simplest, most obvious thing, which is we employ a lot of people here, all the way through all the people we educate, through the ideas and the work that we create in research and in our community and in our healthcare that our faculty provide and that our nurses provide and our dentists provide and the practice that our lawyers provide. That's a really important part of the economy in Indiana. And we do it through engagement, trying to improve the quality of life. We also, as a campus, have to create a competitive quality of life. People would ask me what one thing I worry about, and I always say, of course I always worry about money. That's my job. But what I really worry about is being competitive, long term. And a key part of that is being a place where young people want to live. because they will take a job in a city they like. They will move to a city without a job. I said that completely wrong. Let me try it again. People 25 to 34 move to places because they like them, not because they have a job. First time I heard that, and I saw the data for that, I looked around and I watched all the, frankly, men and women who had grayish hair looking at each other going, no kidding? And then you could tell who had children, who were nodding going, yeah, my 23-year-old is in Atlanta, which is one of those cities, by the way, that wins. Or Chicago, one of those that win. We have to be competitive, and that is one place we can play in the health and the sustainability and the inspiring places as CICF talks about. So our strategy in this plan, as it's come to be finalized, is we got 3 clear priorities, not surprising, frankly, because they build off our history. Success with students, advances in health and life sciences, and contributing to our city, our state, and our nation. Those are the core priorities, and then we've layered under that 10 different initiatives, and I'm going to talk about them, but I'm going to start first talking about success of students. And every once in a while, people, I think, believe that student success is just about trying, sitting over coffee and saying, oh, let's try this and it'll solve everything. So I'm showing you a set of data up here that should make your eyes hurt. A really good piece of work completed by Gary Pike and some colleagues on this campus that is trying to take apart completion by who completes in 4 years and 5 years and 6 years and how the variables predict that. And by the way, they're different. And this is one study. Now, why do I show you this? I don't expect you to read it. I'm showing it to you because this is hard work. This is systematic work. And the improvement we've made in our student success has been so data-driven, it astounds most people. We take apart studies like this. We look at the success of actual students. We try and sort out everything we can measure, we are measuring, I think, about our students, to try and sort out how we make them more successful. And as a result, we are more successful, and we're considered a leader in urban schools in trying to move forward on data-based work. So some of the things that we're going to do to support the success of our students are, of course, help our undergraduates in their student learning and success. The first initiative, the first priority, we need to help them move forward. And we're going to do that in a variety of ways based on the data. And one example that's up here, Ahmad Malik, was somebody who got a RISE opportunity, a research opportunity here, and now he's saying it's just transformed his experience in his graduate program where he is now at NYU. We're also going to optimize enrollment management, which means structuring the way you recruit students, the way you support students. You want to get the right students here, and you want them to be successful. And that means financial aid and support services. It means housing. It means a whole series of things that you have to work together to make that possible. We do have to increase our capacity for graduate education. We don't talk a lot about this because from the outside, everyone says, you got lots of graduate students. You got 8,000 graduate students. Well, we do. And most of them are in medicine, dentistry, and law. They're graduate professional degrees. We do not have many students in PhD programs. We have a very small number, frankly, in those programs. There happen to be really good students. One of them is a trustee of Indiana University currently. Janice Farlow is in an MD PhD program. But they're small, and so we're working on adding degree programs very carefully in this, and we've just established one in health communication. I want to thank publicly Sandra Petronio, my lovely wife, who helped carry that proposal because she's worked in that area before. We've also established one recently in economics that's focused on healthcare and economics focused on philanthropy. And that's a great example of niching for a particular program. So that's an area we're going to continue to work. We say we want to transform online education. We're saying that because we've been involved in online education. We have an astonishing number of classes online. This is the campus that invented the Kelley Direct Online MBA program before I came. That's how long ago. And so what we're talking about is transforming it to fit the new environments that we're in, where people are actually taking courses on their smartphones. They're not just doing it on their laptops, they're doing it on their smartphones. They're doing it in all these different contexts. And so we need to do that. All of this is about helping students succeed. The second priority I mentioned was advances in health and life science, and there are so many examples here I could give. I won't. I'm going to give you two quick ones. One is one of the cutting edge areas that it's important for the future in healthcare is what's called interprofessional education and practice. And this is a straightforward idea. It sounds radical to some people, which is physicians and nurses and social workers and dentists and other health professionals actually work in a team. Now, if any of you have experienced the healthcare system, it doesn't always work that way. And this is one of the challenges, to integrate education and practice together. And this is, we're carrying forward, there's a search for a new director of that center. We're hoping to create a space in the new property we've acquired with Wishart in the land swap for where now Eskenazi Health is, and we got their old buildings. This is going to be a major effort over the next decade on this campus. I want to thank John Williams, who's been a big champion of that, the Dean of Dentistry, and Jay Hess, the new Dean of Medicine as well as Dean Broom, and all these deans who are listed on the screen, one of whom I'm going to now talk about, which is the other area in health that I want to pull out, which is public health, the Fairbanks School. And that is Paul Halverson, who is here at the yellow flower. Well, they all have yellow flowers. I hadn't noticed that, except one. Wave your hand, Paul. He's the new guy. So Paul joined us last year and is the founding dean of the Fairbanks School of Public Health. He is in the midst of doing everything all at once. You take a small department, you grow it quickly, you have to have over 25 faculty, which he's well beyond. They're hiring people, they're getting ready for accreditation. He's building relationships in the community. He's been a state health director, and so he's got that experience. And this is critical to our future because, again, Indiana has real challenges on the health front. I don't think I need to tell you that anymore. And it is also critical to the success with that young group of people we're trying to recruit, because one measure they look at are what's available in terms of quality of life. And so this is a great combination, plus we want to be leaders in the research in this area. So we think that these are two good examples. There are many others, because as some of you know, this is a huge part of our portfolio. The third area is the contributions to Indiana, Indianapolis, and beyond. And I'm going to go through these last several, 6, 7 through 10, reasonably quickly. But I wanted to highlight the idea of accelerating innovation and discovery through research, translating research into practice. And all I've done is put up on the screen a few people to illustrate that. And one that I don't think I've used before is Carl Mcdormand, who's over in the bottom right with that sort of eerie-looking face. It's a very unusual photo. And it fits because he does androids. He actually creates artificial people. And if you look carefully, there is a figure in there with black hair, and that's the figure. And the idea is that you create robots, I'd call them, androids that represent people. And this is the kind of work that they're doing. And it's trying to translate that into practice, because we might be able to use these androids to replace people in certain circumstances where this would be better. It's a really interesting line of work. Lexi Torkey is in the next to him there, who does work. She's an MD and does a great deal of work related to end-of-life matters and so forth. Really, really serious translation into practice. Mark Kelly, who is a leader in developing models about that process, and above is Gabe Filippelli, who's one of our colleagues in earth sciences, who you may have read, he received a very significant grant to look at lead poisoning and its impact in the soil, lead poisoning, impact on children here in Indianapolis. And to the far right at the top is one of our favorite people on campus, Ali Jafari, one of our faculty in engineering and technology, who was the first creator of the university's on-course system. He was a creator of Angel Learning, which sold for $100 million as a company. He then created Epsilon. All of these, by the way, with students as partners. Created Epsilon, the New York Times licensed that, and now he has course networking, which is the current technology. He's literally a world leader in learning technologies, translating these ideas into practice. The other 4 remaining initiatives that support the contributions to the well-being of the citizens are we want to deepen our community involvement, community engagement. I know that may sound interesting to we are known worldwide for our commitment to the community engagement, but we believe that we actually have to build it even deeper and richer over the next decade. We also need to strengthen our internationalization, and what better day to make that point than with the international events downstairs and the energy of that and our consuls who are with us here today. This is, we believe, one of the key things. When I came here, this was one thing I worried about, Indiana. And that is that even though we had all these international businesses, the auto business is international, I did not have the sense that we sort of understood globalism, understood that we're part of that world, and we've made, I think, not only as a campus, but as a community, and some of you have been critical to that who are in this room here today. This, I think, is going to be a key part, and we have a photo of one of our students in Venice, by the way, for our Italian consul, in Venice, on a trip. But this kind of work and the work that Gil Latz is doing as our campus leader in international programs has been very important. We do need to promote a campus climate of inclusion. Diversity is important and welcoming people is important, and that has to be nurtured. I'm very pleased Karen Dace joined us as the new Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand. I didn't put her photo up. Thank you. I'll embarrass you another time. Karen joined us from Kansas City and also previously the University of Utah, where she's been a leader in these roles. And that's a key part of being successful. And again, it flips back to our community because after all, our students and faculty and staff are a member of our community, and what we model changes the quality of life in our community. Finally, we do need to develop our faculty and staff. One of the things about the academic life and university life is I think most of us who have it feel very fortunate, but it does require that you continually grow and are supported in that growth. So it is necessary that we provide support for teaching and learning, and we do have a center for that we help people with their research, and our Vice Chancellor for Research provides programs for that, and we try and move people forward across time and provide support for them, and that is, we believe, important to our success. Once again, everyone is a citizen, him or herself, but also it improves the quality of life in our community. The next steps in this are the plans that are coming from all the campuses of Indiana University will be brought together in the university plan that's going to evolve out of input from the trustees of Indiana University as well as these plans. I always say it's a dynamic plan because we will adjust this plan as we learn things. So our friends in town at Lumina are leaders in understanding student success. We will change what we're planning to implement as we learn from them, as we learn from BioCrossroads. What is the change in the health and life science sphere? Also, our Battelle studies, some of you don't know the name. There's a series of research studies that have been about our community and told us about particularly the health and life science, but not only, some about jobs and the workforce are important inputs to this process. And we'll do that even as we implement. And Executive Vice Chancellor Padar has got implementation teams already moving forward. So I say in the words of one of our former colleagues, we're moving onward, and the spaceship is moving, and I hope we are moving at warp speed. So thank you very much.